So today's video is going to be a little bit on the personal side. I'm going to be ranking every NBA arena that I've been to in my lifetime. So yeah, I guess this is like a personal goal of mine. I would like to see every MLB, NBA, and NFL stadium before I die. I've made pretty solid progress on the NBA arenas so far. I've seen 14 out of the 29 arenas, obviously not 30 because the Lakers and Clippers both play at the Staples Center, or now I guess like the Crypto.com Arena. Baseball, I'm the same thing. I've hit 14. NFL, I've only seen 5. But yeah, for NBA arenas, they're a little bit different than the MLB arenas because they kind of all have the same dimensions, the same court layout, the same kind of inside structure. And I think when you rank arenas in general or stadiums, it's all subjective. It's like who you're there with. Like, did you see a good game played? Did you enjoy the outside like nightlife before the game? Do you enjoy just the surrounding area? Because like just for baseball, if you go to like Fenway Park or Wrigleyville, it's a really cool like bar town. It's a cool like up like scale like I feel like vibe before the games. I'm a Mets fan. You go to Citi Field, the only thing you could do outside that stadium is get your car muscle fixed. It's only car shops. It's pretty beat around there. So yeah, like I said, I've been to 4 arenas. I'm just going to be basing this off my subjective opinion. I'll also list some of the arenas at the end that I would like to go to in the near future. And yeah, I'm not saying that your team is garbage, your city is garbage. It's just kind of like my fun experience when I went to these games. So I'm just going to go from 1 to 14. I'll start off with my favorite arena. It's Madison Square Garden where the Knicks play. It's pretty much because that's my home city. That's my team. Like I grew up going to so many Knicks games back in when I started in like 2005, 6, 7 with my dad. We watched David Lee, Stephon Marbury, Nate Robinson, some terrible Knicks teams, but the tickets were a little bit more on the cheaper side. We used to be able to get good seats. I remember one of my favorite games I went to was seeing the Knicks in a triple overtime game against the Detroit Pistons. Bro, when I was a kid, I was 7, I was 8, I was just heckling opponent fans. I was like one of those kids. I was very passionate like at games. I would be screaming and stuff. My first game was a Nate Robinson game winner against the Sixers, so I got off to a hot start going to basketball games. I loved it. Living on Long Island, you take the LIRR right into Penn Station. You go up to the Knicks games. A lot of nostalgia there. They're my number one. And like I said, that's a subjective thing. But hey, being in New York City, it's pretty cool. I've seen countless like great Knicks games. I've seen some terrible Knicks games there, but they're reigning number 1 for me. Number 2, we have the Wells Fargo Center here in Philadelphia. I lived in Philadelphia for the past 5 or 6 years. I went to school at Temple. I'm still living there now. And the layout of Wells Fargo is pretty cool because you have Wells Fargo Center, you have Lincoln Financial where the Eagles play, and then you have Citizens Bank Park where the Phillies play, all in the same center. Now, for some reason, Philly is moving, or the Sixers are moving Wells Fargo Center to downtown Philly, I think to try to get like their Madison Square Garden, which is going to be a terrible idea. They're moving it to the Fashion District. I can't only imagine parking over there. It's going to be a nightmare, but it's pretty cool because like the layout is there. Not a lot of sport cities have that, and they also have Xfinity Live, which is a really fun bar also in that area too, which I think just kind of enhances the overall experience. The subways roll into there as well. I've seen a decent amount of Sixers games. It's definitely the second most I've seen, even more than Nets games living in New York. And I've seen some good games at the Sixers Arena as well. I've seen some fun playoff games against like the Heat and the Nets and the Raptors. I've also seen the Knicks lose to them about 5 or 6 times now. I've yet to see the Knicks beat the Sixers in Philly, but one day, man. Number 3, we have the Raptors Arena. When I went, it was called the Air Canada Center. Now I think it's called the Scotiabank Arena, and I saw a really fun game with like my buddy. Don't go in February though. We went up to Toronto. It was our first time. I've ended up being like back in Toronto like 4 times since then because we love this city. It's super cool. And yeah, I went there. It was freezing out. The game we went to was pretty good as well, even though we sat up pretty high. The Raptors ended up losing to the Bucks in overtime. So it was a fun first game in Toronto. At 4, we have the Boston Celtics TD Garden. I really like just kind of like the vibe getting into the game. It was funny because me and 2 buddies went right before COVID hit. It was, I think, like early March. It was my spring break of my junior year. And this was the game that Rudy Gobert played against the Celtics. And I think he had COVID at the time. And we didn't know that. And we didn't know how the world was going to change up. But it was a really cool experience. Kind of like the last real game before COVID. And obviously, we've kind of gone back to a little bit before that now. And it was a really fun game. Celtics Jazz, like the arena was popping. The nightlife was popping after that. It was a really cool experience walking in. We took like, I just remember driving over the river. And yeah, I just really enjoyed my experience at the Celtics Arena. The TD Garden's coming in at number 4 for me. Coming in at number 5, we have the Miami Heat. When I went, it was the American Airlines Arena. FTX now. I don't even know what it's going to be called or what it's called now. But I was upset because me and a couple buddies, we went. It was January of 2020, so a couple months before COVID hit as well. And we ended up staying in Tampa. We drove a couple hours to Miami, and they were playing the Blazers. I was excited to see Melo. He'd ended up, I don't even think, playing in that game. I think Lillard sat as well. Jimmy might have sat. Like a lot of guys sat out, but it was just a fun experience. Now, I don't even think the Heat Arena is like that cool at all. I think it's pretty mid compared to the rest of these, but just kind of being in Miami, like seeing the palm trees walking into the stadium, it was pretty cool. Coming in number 6, we have the Chicago Bulls, the United Center. I saw them play the Knicks back in November of 2021. Unfortunately, the Knicks did lose, but you just kind of have that historic feel being in the stadium, obviously because they have a rich history with Michael Jordan in the 90s, and it was cool seeing like that statues, and I like the stadium itself. I gotta stop calling them stadiums, like the arena. But yeah, I went with my girlfriend. We had good seats. It was a fun time. I really like Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities to visit, and I think that goes into the experience as well. And if they play the Knicks, like I'm gonna enjoy the game a little bit more because I'm into it, because it's not like a neutral feel. Coming in at number 7, we have the Warriors, and I went when it was the Oracle Arena. I went in January of 2019. I probably should have this higher because like out of all these arenas that I've been to for just one game, this is by far the best game I've ever seen. This might actually be the best game I've ever seen in my lifetime watching an NBA game, because you guys probably remember this game as well. This was the James Harden game winner in overtime against Golden State. Like I was on a school immersion trip, like technically study abroad, but it was in San Francisco. We're in Silicon Valley. It was a really cool like week experience. Got like a couple international business credits, and me and 2 people on the trip, we were like, let's just go to the Warriors game. We dropped like I think like 180 on the seats. We took an Uber over the I think Golden Gate Bridge or whatever took us up to the Oakland area, and we got to see the Warriors play the Rockets. We got to see James Harden like at peak James Harden level in Houston. Like I have a video on my phone of like Harden hitting the final shot. I'll probably post this in the video as well, so you'll see it now. But yeah, it's like a one-game experience. This is up there for me. 8, we have the Utah Jazz, the Vivint Arena. I was just there. Me and a couple buddies, we plan on doing a Park City snowboarding trip. Kind of timed this poorly. I should have did this closer to All-Star Weekend. But it was a fun game. They ended up beating the Dallas Mavericks. I was upset, though, because we were supposed to see Luka Doncic, and he got hurt against the Suns like a night or 2 before. This was back in late January. And the stadium definitely had like a tech feel. Like you ordered like food like ahead, like on every single stand. And I know the owner is a big tech guy, but yeah, it was interesting. And we got to take birds from the hotel into the arena, which was fun. I was a little underwhelmed by Salt Lake City as a whole, but it was still a cool experience nonetheless. 9, we have the Phoenix Suns. This was the Talking Stick Resort Arena when I went back in 2017, a December game. It's funny enough, I went with my dad like on a family trip. The Suns were garbage this season. They ended up getting like DeAndre Ayton, obviously the number 1 pick in the 2018 draft. And we left the game early to beat traffic. And this is where I think like Marcus Saul hit a game-winning like tip-in, like alley-oop, like inbounding as time expired. It might not have been Marcus Saul on the Grizzlies. It could have been somebody else. Or maybe the Suns hit a game winner. I honestly don't remember because we left the game early, but I know there was a game winner and we listened to it on the radio in the rental car. So yeah, it was pretty upsetting that we left early. Number 10, we have the Denver Nuggets. This is the Ball Arena. I was there in March of 2022. This was funny as well because we were staying out in like past Vail. I think it was like Avon, Colorado, which is about 2 hours away from Denver. But we drove those 2 hours to see the Warriors and the Nuggets on a Thursday night game. Like these are the best seats I've ever had to an NBA game. We were almost courtside, so we were like close up seeing Jokic and Curry, and it was like a Thursday night TNT game. It was really cool. I think the Warriors ended up winning this one. Jokic actually didn't have like one of the best games of his career. I was hoping to see just like freak show Jokic. But yeah, at least like in my point of view, the arena wasn't too special to me, but I always remember it because it was definitely the best seats I've ever had to a sporting event in general. At number 11, we have the Orlando Magic in Amway Center. I went in like December of, I think it was like 2016. They played the Nets. Both teams were pretty garbage at this time. I would like to go back and definitely watch Paolo and Franz, a much more exciting team than they were when I saw them. Number 12, we have the Washington Wizards. I went in about, I think it was January of 2018. It was like my freshman year of college. Me and a couple buddies, like we drove down to Washington, like DC. We saw them play the Jazz. We sat up high. Funny enough, like we all bet on the Jazz because they were like better odds. And this was before like any of these sports books were legal, and we were all under the age of 21. So we were betting on like these Japanese websites, and we couldn't even take the money out because you took it out in Bitcoin. We're like, we have no idea how to take this out. It was a fun experience nonetheless. I remember having like a ticket issue, and we had to go up and like, I don't know, like it was a Ticketmaster thing. It was very frustrating, and the game wasn't too special. Number 13, we have the Nets, the Barclays Center. I've seen probably like 4 or 5 Nets games here. Most recently, I saw them play the Bucks in the game that Kevin Durant's shoe size was an inch too big, or else they would have won. It was an insane game, an insane atmosphere. But I don't know. I don't feel too special being at a Nets game. Maybe it's because they've recently moved from Jersey, and maybe I would have felt a different way at the Prudential Center. I don't know. I think it's just a subjective thing. I also saw the 2018 draft there, so that was a really cool memory. And all these like arenas have, I think, like their special thing, and I've also seen like pretty good events at these too, so it's not like I hate the Nets arena. I just have to do a ranking. And then lastly, at 14, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. I went in March of 2019. They played the Pistons. They got blown out. Like Drummond and Griffin just dominated them. There was nobody at the arena. Cleveland was a really dead city at this time, and it was a pretty lackluster experience. I gotta go back though with Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, and Garland. Maybe if the Knicks play them in the playoffs, I'll go see them on the road there. So yeah, that's my ranking, 1 to 14, basically every NBA arena I've been to. I'm already trying kind of plan out going to Indianapolis next year for the All-Star game. I definitely want to do that in February of 24. I definitely have to see a Lakers game at the Staples Center, and I definitely have to see a Kings game now that they're good. I'm like, these fans seem amazing. So yeah, let me know maybe your favorite NBA arena you've been to, or just kind of what was your favorite experience at an NBA game in the comments. I'd love to read them. And if there's any arena I gotta hit, let me know in the comments. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.